Hi everybody. We are wrapping up our Unit 10 with Lesson 10.6b. We're going to look at translating conic sections but in a slightly different way than we did yesterday. So to start, I do want to do some refreshing of completing the square. We did completing the square last semester, and completing the square is where we factor something so that, or intentionally manipulate something so that we can factor it easier. So completing the square looked like this. It's where we take the b term, or the number in front of x, we divide it by 2, and then we square it. Now, this one, if I divide 10 by 2, I get 5, and then I get 5 squared, which is 25. And so that's completing the square. And the reason that we do that is so that we can go from here to factoring it and automatically like this. Because if I were to write two sets of parentheses, I'd have x plus 5 and x plus 5. So the shortcut for completing the square is just to know that you're taking x, whatever this sign is, and then this number divided by 2, and then quantity squared. You don't have to write it out like this. So on this one, I have a 3 in front, so I'm going to factor that out. Oh, sorry. And then I'm going to complete the square here, and I'm going to have 2 over 1 quantity squared, which would give, or sorry, 2 over 2, I was doing the math in my head, that would give us 1 squared, which is 1. So that would be completing the square, but we have to pay attention to what number is outside first. All right, so don't freak out when you see this equation, but the general equation for all conic sections is this: ax squared plus bxy plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f equals 0. Holy smokes, what does this even mean? The big thing we need to pay attention to is that a and c cannot be 0, because we can't have, if we had both of these equal to 0, then we would have no x squared, no y squared, and we would only have x's and y's. And so we're going to look at how to rewrite something in this form in order to determine which conic section it is. All right, hold on, we got this. So this says identify and sketch the graph of the conic section represented by this function. So what we're going to do is we're going to put, I'm going to put the x's together and I'm going to put the y's together. So I'm going to move this over here. I'm not adding 12x, I'm just rewriting it in a different order. Sorry, that's not a plus, that's a minus because it's minus 12x. And then plus y squared plus 4y equals 8. So that doesn't really help me anymore. I do see that I have two squared variables, so it's got to be at least a circle, an ellipse, or a hyperbola. Can't be a parabola because I'd have only one squared variable. But I'm going to use completing the square. And so I'm going to write x squared minus 12x plus blank. And I'm going to put all that in parentheses. Then I'm going to have y squared plus 4y plus blank and equals 8. And so completing the square here, I'm going to get 12 over 2 squared. That would give me 6 squared, which is 36. And then y squared plus 4y, so I'm going to take 4 divided by 2, quantity squared, and that gives me 4. But I cannot just throw a random 36. I can't throw a random 4 in there. If I add 36 to one side, I have to add it to the other side. What we do to one side, we do to both sides. I added 4 to this side, so I have to add 4 to this side. And now I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this in factored form, because that's the whole point of completing the square. This is going to give me x, whatever this sign is, so minus 6 squared, plus we've got y squared, or sorry, not y squared, y, whatever this sign is, so plus, excuse me, y plus 2 quantity squared. And that equals, if we add all that together, we should get 48. Now, because there are no coefficients for either of these sets of parentheses, we can look at this, hopefully, and go, hey, that looks like a circle. It's the form of a circle. So if I were to sketch this, I know that my center would be at 6, -2, because I do the opposite sides. Oops. And then I would have a radius of the square root of 48, which is about, I would say 6.9 probably. It's almost 7. So we would draw that radius of 6.9. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. I'm just going to do a quick sketch. And it would look, it's going to go like that. And mine's going to go off the screen because I didn't give myself enough room. But again, we're just doing a sketch, not a really good official graph. So we would say that this one is a circle. All right, identify and sketch the graph of the conic section represented here. So let's get our x's together. We've got 9x squared plus 18x. Again, I'm not changing the sign. I'm just rewriting the order. And I'm going to go ahead and put that plus blank in there because I know I'm going to have to complete the square. Then we've got minus 4y squared equals 27. There's no other y value, so I can just leave it like this. Now, I have a 9 in front of the x squared, so I'm going to factor that out, and I get 9x squared plus 2x plus blank. And then to complete the square, I'm going to take 2 divided by 2, quantity squared. That would give me 1, and 1 squared is 1. So when I'm thinking about what I need to put on the other side to balance the equation, because there's a 9 here, I have to multiply these two together. I'm going to do 9 times 1 is 9, and that's what I add to the other side. Not the 1, I have to multiply it by whatever's out here. On this problem back here, there was no number in front, so I just added 36. I just added 4, but here I have to multiply by 9. So I'm going to get 9, and I'm going to jump to that factoring because that's the point of completing the square. X plus 1 squared minus 4y squared equals 27 plus 9, which would give us 36. This is giving us a little bit of a better picture, but I'm going to look at this and say it's not a circle because there's this minus sign here. There's also a number in front of this. There's a number in front of this. So that means it's going to be either an ellipse or a hyperbola. Hopefully you have a guess so far. But I'm going to, because I know it's either an ellipse or a hyperbola, I'm going to divide both sides, or all sides, by 36, because I know it has to equal 1. And so that's going to give me x plus 1 squared over 4 minus y squared over 9 equals 1. Now, I can see clearly that I've got x and y, and then because there's a minus, it's going to be a hyperbola. So, if I wanted to sketch this, I would have center at -1, 0. There's nothing added or subtracted to y squared, so it's just 0. And I do have to take the opposite of x. My a squared is 4, which means that a is 2. My b squared is 9, so b is 3. So I can put a center at -1, 0. And then my a value is 2. X comes first, so I know it's going to open left, right. Like, that's a really bad sketch, but like that. So I'm going to move in the x direction 2 spaces. And those are my vertices, 1, 2. I'm going to move in the y direction 3. And then I'm going to draw my box. draw my asymptotes that go through that center. And then it opens left, right. Here, let me change my color so you can see it clearly. And remember that it gets close to those asymptotes, but it never touches. All right, let's do one more. So we've got x squared minus 8x minus y plus 19. So I have x squared minus 8x. The x's are already together, which is very nice of them to give it to us like that. And then minus y, and then plus 19 equals 0. So we have x squared minus 8x plus blank, so we've got 8 over 2 squared. That would give us 4 squared, which is 16. So I need to add 16 to both sides. This is going to give us x squared, oh sorry, not x squared, x minus, again using this sign, so x minus 4 quantity squared minus y plus 19 equals 16. And so this one looks a little weird. What I notice is that I don't have a y squared. So right away, I should be able to say this is a parabola. It's a parabola that, because it only has one squared variable. And we're going back to yesterday's lesson where we looked at standard form of a parabola, like a different standard form of a parabola. And it's even what we looked at last semester where we're thinking about y equals ax minus h squared plus k. So what we're going to do is get this y to the other side and the 16 over here. And so I'm going to add y to both sides. And I'm going to get, nope, just kidding. That's not actually your homework. X minus 4 squared plus 19 equals y plus 16. But I'm going to bring that 16 over. So my final answer will look like y equals x, oh my goodness, x minus 4 squared plus 3. Because when I do 19 minus 6, I get 3. All right, so if I wanted to sketch that, my vertex, this is in vertex form, so my vertex is at 4, 3. And then what I would need to remember is that if x squared is, or if x is the squared variable, that it's going to open up or down. And it's a positive, so for today, the only thing I really care about is seeing that parabola that opens up. It's just a sketch. It's not make a table of values and find all of them. All right, guys, that's all I have for you. I will post your assignment in Google Classroom. Good luck, and shoot me a message if you have questions.